While the blooms of summer have faded, there's so much beauty to be found in the colder months. From striking silhouettes to pops of color, keep your garden vibrant even when the temperatures drop. My next guest says your garden can and should still be a priority on your to-do list this month. Jessica Berrett is the Horticulture Manager at the Ashton Gardens at Thanksgiving Point. Yes, she's the one. So she joins me today on Studio 5. Thanks for being here. I mean, really at this time of year, it's too late for most of us to plant anything.
Unless you can dig in your soil. If you can dig, you could still plant, but for most of us, it's a little cold and a little frozen.
I like that. If you can dig, you can still plant. That's what it boils down to. Okay, so let's talk about, you say right now is a good time to be looking around, seeing what we like to know maybe what we could have in the winter if we don't have it right now.
Right. So we live in a four-season place, so we should try our best to design our landscape so that they look good all times of year. You know, we get focused on flowers and the bright colors in the spring and summer and even into fall, but there's a whole different kind of beauty happening in the winter.
Yeah, and so you're saying most of us just think, okay, what do I want my yard to look like in the summer, or what do I want it to look like in the spring, maybe fall, but most people, I think, probably are not thinking about what my yard looks like in the winter. I was saying mine's mostly covered in snow, but what are some things we should be thinking about how we want our yard to look like in the winter?
So even though we're not planting right now, you can be observing landscapes wherever you're visiting. If you're visiting people for the holidays, or if you're driving around looking at lights, if you see something that looks great and that you love, kind of take a note of it, because your landscape should reflect what you like. And a big part of knowing what you like is observing and looking for textures out there in other people's landscapes.
Okay, so don't just worry about the summer. We got to, year round, we got to think. Okay, so you said there are some things, if we can get specific, that will make a difference. And the first one is trees in the winter.
Yeah, so a lot of people love the red color of maples. There are a lot more trees beyond just red colored maples that we can look for. So other fall color trees are ginkgos, zelkovas. They're a little bit less common trees, but will still give some really cool fall color. And if you really want a red colored maple, I would look for one that has sunset in the name.
Okay.
Because a lot of red maples actually don't do that well here in our soils.
Oh.
But the sunset varieties, look for those.
Look for those sunset varieties. And you say also, think about what the branches are going to look like.
So going into
Not
winter.
just the leaves.
Yeah, going into winter when the leaves are gone, there are different shrubs that have really cool red twigs, like red twig dogwood is one that looks great all winter because it's got this red color. Oak trees are interesting because they'll hang on to their leaves for a long time. So even though they're not necessarily colorful, they bring just an interesting texture to your yard. There's also curly branches, like curly willow branches. So that'll make your tree look really interesting in the winter. And any kind of weeping form is much more striking in the winter time, the weeping branches.
Okay, so just think about the leaves, think about the branches too. And then you say we can look for things that might have some ornamental berries, like that gives some color during the winter.
Yeah, so you know, when we're lacking flowers, look towards some of the berries that will stay on the trees through fall and even some of them through the winter. So here we've got some orange berries from a pyracantha, which is kind of a controversial plant. A lot of people hate it, but this time of year it looks absolutely beautiful with the orange berries. There's also a variety of crab apples. There's hundreds of types of crab apples, and they can add a ton of red to your yard. There's also blue junipers with the little blueberries, and snowberry is a less common one, but it has a white berry.
That is really fun, and that would pop in your green in the winter time. You say also that sometimes we can think about pine trees. I have mostly pine trees in my yard, but you just mentioned there are so many different shapes and sizes. What should we think of when we're looking at evergreens?
So evergreens, we've got kind of weeping branches. There's low-growing evergreens. I especially love the bluish and the kind of dusty blues and greens. These don't stand out as much in the summer, but in the winter they really pop against the snow and against kind of the other reddish and orange leaf colors. They really stand out this time of year.
That's so fun. I have noticed a lot of different types of those evergreens since that's what I look for mostly. It's kind of fun that we have a lot of options that way. And you say also we have it with shrubs.
Yeah, so with shrubs, that's another way to add more beautiful color into your yard. 9-bark shrubs are one that I think does not get used as often, but they come in a lot of different colors. And as they get bigger, they also have a really interesting bark in the wintertime. So I definitely recommend 9 barks. Barberry bushes also have some really pretty fall color, can turn reds and oranges and purples. So look beyond maybe the classic burning bush that we see around a lot, which is the bright, bright red, and those do okay. Sometimes they do better than others, but there's a lot of varieties we can bring in with our shrubs.
And you mentioned the bark because not only are we looking at what's on the outside of the tree, but that bark can be striking. I love like an aspen with the white bark.
Yeah, so birches and aspens and poplars all have the striking white bark that's definitely stands out.
Okay, now this is the only one well, let's talk about grasses first.
Okay.
Sometimes people will leave their grasses up. That's something that can add interest in the winter.
Yeah, so there's a variety of different grass seed heads. Some of these are very, very tall, some are smaller, but you can see all the different variety of the different seeds. One of my favorites is this, I don't know if we can zoom in on it, but it's called Northern Sea Oats. And it's got a really interesting kind of seed head on it that kind of droops. And
okay, that was
unusual.
the term I wasn't familiar with, but I get it now. Seed head means it has these seeds at the top. So you say look for seed heads because then you'll have this extra element.
Yeah, and if your seeds of your grasses or your other plants are attractive, I encourage you to leave them through the winter so that they can give you that extra interest in your yard. It feeds birds. It's just kind of a fun way to give a different texture to your landscape.
So anything with a seed head, you say just leave it, because I start just like, I just cut everything to the ground. But
it depends.
Leave some of this stuff.
I kind of do a hybrid approach, which if it's not attractive and there's nothing special about it, go ahead and cut it down. But if you see something beautiful that stands out, if you like it, leave it. If you don't like it, cut it down.
I like your two things. If you can dig, you can plant, and if you don't like it, cut it down. Okay, thank you so much. Now, I know people can find inspiration on your Instagram. Tell us what it is.
Yeah, so Ashton Gardens actually has a new Instagram. It's called The Ashton Gardens, so if you want to follow along what the gardens are doing. And then my personal Instagram is plant.geek.
Plant.geek.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. We learned a lot from you today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.